So.
Good evening, everyone. It is November 9th, 2022, and this is the meeting of the Mansfield Sustainability Committee. Welcome, everyone. Good to see you all. We have some esteemed guests to share information with us today, so we're excited about that. I think you both probably know our committee members, but we can just introduce ourselves as people ask questions and there's some dialogue. I will start with calling meeting to order and seeking a motion for approval of the minutes of September 14th, 2022. Have a motion?
I'll put the motion ahead.
Thanks, Katie. Do we have a second?
I will.
Thanks, Al. Great. Any discussion? We'll let Matt come in for the vote.
Good.
He's joining. Hi, Matt. We see your name. I'm assuming you can hear us. Welcome. We are just voting on the September 14th minutes. We've got a motion on the table. So all in favor to approve the September 14th minutes, please say aye.
Aye.
All opposed? And any abstentions? Okay, so approved unanimously. Thank you. All right. So town manager Ryan and our facilities director Al are here to give us some updates on building needs assessment that was done and the climate resolution, which was passed just a little bit over a year ago. So who wants to get started? Which of you would you like to go first?
I'll lead things off. So good to see you, Lynn. Good to see all members of the committee. Can everybody hear me okay?
Yeah.
Yep.
Okay, good.
Yep.
So yeah, the sort of thumbnail sketch as far as our work on municipal facilities goes is dating back a little over a year at this point. You know, we started to talk about facility needs, and we started to talk about facility needs largely in the context of our programmatic needs. So how well are our existing buildings equipped to meet existing operational needs, program needs, and anticipated future needs, which is a different lens than previous studies, which had focused more on, you know, what kind of physical condition are the building is in. Clearly that's relevant. But the analogy I like to use is you know, a father of 3 kids, you know, 5-person household. You could show me the best built house with, you know, the best insulation, the most energy efficient windows, the best roof, the best this, the best that. But if it doesn't have the layout and the square footage I need, the number of bedrooms I need, it's probably not going to meet, you know, the needs I have for a day-to-day sort of use standpoint. And so that's really what we were most interested in looking at, and with the focus of this needs assessment was on the programmatic use, programmatic needs assessment end. And so most buildings, I guess you could say significant town buildings were a direct focus of this study. We did intentionally exclude a couple higher profile buildings, and I'll explain why. And even peripherally they're involved, but we did not directly look at Mansfield Community Center. We did not directly look at the public library. And the reasons for that is that of all the different facilities that we own, we didn't look at those because essentially they're the only facilities we have where a rational argument couldn't really be made for moving away from those buildings. Literally everything else we have, you know, our town hall, our fire stations, our public works garage, on down the list. You know, these are aging or outdated buildings. They were designed in some cases for a different purpose than what they're being used for. I think everybody knows that the town hall was a grammar school, and certainly when you walk around the corridors, these really wide, oversized corridors that you can put like, you know, 10 people shoulder to shoulder or whatever. They're oversized for the purposes of a town hall, plus just the general layout. You know, I mean, it's sort of, you walk in, you don't know where you're going. There's no central receiving area, customer service windows, the sort of things that you typically would see in a building that was built to be a town hall, right? And so we, the first order of business, we had to obviously develop a scope and figure out who it is we would be working with on this, what I keep calling a phase 1 needs assessment. So we did a competitive solicitation process, and ultimately TSKP Studios, who is also the architecture and design firm that we've been working with on the new elementary school project, they were selected for this work. And so for the better part of a year, we've worked with TSKP. They've done walkthroughs of the buildings. They've met with department heads. They've done some targeted meetings, I would say, with external stakeholders, like folks from the Commission on Aging, et cetera, that have perspectives on the needs of, say, the senior community and that sort of thing. So I'll get to future plans for public engagement in a bit. But that wasn't really the focus of this. The focus of this was to really get an in-house examination and feedback on what's working and not working for our facilities, and start to, I don't want to say narrow our thinking, but focus our thinking on what potential alternatives we should perhaps be looking at. Everything from, renovating in place to potentially looking at new sites and new construction. And certainly, energy efficiency, environmental sustainability, and going hand in hand with that, the ongoing operating costs of maintaining older buildings, heating and cooling, and powering older buildings. That's obviously will be part of the calculus moving forward as well. So we went through a many months long process, kind of volleying, ideas back and forth with TSKP. Ultimately, a few different areas of, I guess you could say, priority needs bubbled to the surface. One is looking at the needs or the desire to redesign what we'll call the sort of primary municipal complex where the town hall and the community center are. That's obviously a very central location in terms of the downtown area. You might call it prized real estate. It's right there with the downtown, has, potential to really be transformative if developed or redeveloped in the right way in terms of what it adds to the community. And then along with that, the senior center, our existing senior center, anybody who's been in it probably already knows this, but it was added onto over the years. It's been renovated kind of in incremental piecemeal fashion over the years. And it's a really tough site. It's a tight site. It's a very poorly drained site. It's not a large enough parcel to basically build a new structure on the same parcel and then tear down what you have. And if you tried to work on the existing site, for one, you'd have to vacate the building entirely where you are and rebuild in place. And then again, while the overall geographic location presents some positives, the proximity to the housing authority in Wrights Village, proximity to Mansfield Rehab, Juniper Hill, not being so far away from the downtown. We've kind of gotten excited about the possibility of actually, if we're building something new, migrating the senior center to be co-located with the community center and actually be integrated with that building. I would argue that while we have what goes by name, the Mansfield Community Center, we don't actually have a community center by my working definition right now. We have a very nice fitness, health, and wellness facility. And then we have a not so great senior center down the road, but really a community center. When you go to most towns, a community center would have a senior center function built into the sort of the fitness piece and all that. And so, we have not gotten into specific floor plan layout types of things. We're looking at more order of magnitude, square footage, sort of kind of like working with blobs on a map, I guess you could say. But there's a lot of interest in bringing the senior center over to where the community center is, basically building something new onto that building, potentially doing some rework of the existing community center to tie in from a layout and flow standpoint. But then also look to either do a renovation in place of the existing one floor municipal center. That is an alternative that's being looked at. But as well as that, looking at the potential of building a new town hall on the same parcel, but this would be a stacked town hall, much closer to Storrs Road. So bringing the building closer to kind of the main street, as it were. but stacking it in a way that really frees up a lot of the parcel footprint for other purposes, whether that be green space, other outdoor uses, parking. Basically, what we have now, a one-level old school, takes up a lot of space, and it kind of impedes our ability to maximize the use of that footprint or that parcel. So that's that. Again, redevelopment of that site has kind of emerged as what we think would be something that is worthy of additional study, a future study. An add-on possibility, again, I guess taking something that would be transformational and maybe making it really transformational, would be adding a housing component to that. So if we're talking about the municipal building with a couple floors, 2-story, basically town hall, we are batting around this concept of potentially 3 more floors on top of that. That would be affordable housing or affordable senior housing, but kind of tying in with the fact that, again, we're looking to bring the senior center function over to the community center. You could have the housing for a number of these folks, as well as the assets or the amenities that they would use right there in walking distance, basically arm's length. And then, of course, also the added advantage of the adjacency with the high school and potentially some partnerships that could be worked out there. And the proximity or being part of the downtown, the walkability, for seniors to, cafes and other things, in the downtown area. So, again, conceptually high level, there's a lot of interest, I think, in this. Certainly, I think it goes without saying that there's some pretty significant dollar signs associated with something like this. We are starting the process of looking at funding sources, one being the Community Investment Fund, CIF. This is a new funding source that it's just entering its second round of funding now. And these are some really large, 10 or tens of millions of dollars grants that could be awarded. And the fact that we're looking at senior center and senior/affordable housing really fits with the funding eligibility criteria for that program. We know it's going to be super competitive. It's certainly not a slam dunk, but we think we can make a pretty good case under that program. So for that project, there's a lot more I could say about the things, the nuances of what we've sort of looked at, but in big picture, for the purposes of this discussion, I would say that, that's one of the priorities, the redevelopment of the municipal quote unquote complex property, senior center, and either renovated or new town hall with the potential of a housing option located there as well. So that's kind of one discrete project or a couple different combinations of projects that might be done there. Other things that we're looking at are the needs for public safety. So we have a resident trooper program. Anybody who's been in the resident trooper's office, it's almost comically small for a community our size. It's not in any way, there's nothing about it really that's appropriate for modern day policing. Like no aspect of what modern day policing does, from the sorts of private conversations, sensitive conversations that happen in a police facility, to booking of prisoners, to all these things like that, it's just, again, comically bad. You have a public corridor with people that might be coming to see my office or youth services or anything. And then you might have somebody in handcuffs being walked through that. It's just not the way you should set that up, where you're with the public. And it's just not the right, let alone the fact that it's like location in the building kind of creates problems. So, so we were talking about the needs of police. We were talking about the needs of our fire department, and looking at the possibility of maybe consolidating down from 3 fire stations. We have
2. Oops, Ryan, you just went on mute somehow.
Ryan, that was my fault. I'm sorry.
blame Ginny. That was so bad she's cutting me off.
No.
But we were sort of considering the possibility of consolidating down to 2 fire stations, since only 2 of our fire stations are currently staffed anyway. And if we were doing that, one of the ideas that we've been exploring is one of those buildings being a joint public safety building with police and fire in it. And so, we've looked at possible locations for such a facility. We haven't really identified a specific parcel. There's certainly interest in the Four Corners area. I think the assumption being that Fire Station 307, which is by BB's there on 195, it's currently our primary fire station. The site is small. It doesn't really allow itself for lateral build out. So we kind of think that that might be a good site for a renovated sort of secondary fire station, but building the new kind of mothership, if you will, joint public safety facility would be the primary fire station, but also the location of our police facility at another location. So Four Corners is certainly one possibility with the expected growth that we think that area will see, but it would give us a fire station presence basically on both sides of Yukon, on the same 195 corridor, but you have Fire Station 307, the existing facility that kind of lends itself to responding to calls on the southern end of town, and then potentially a facility on the other side of the campus near the Four Corners. But again, no real formal recommendations yet. That's just, I think, based on our GIS analysis where, some of the thinking has taken us. So that would be another facility, basically investment in public safety and a shared fire police kind of consolidated, if you will, public safety building. And then Public Works. We think the site for Public Works is a good site. It's very geographically centrally located, and obviously Public Works needs to be able to get here, there, and everywhere in terms of our road maintenance work and our capital projects. And so we're looking to basically renovate that site, enlarge the spaces that we have, and ultimately bring facilities, co-locate the facilities division there as well. Because right now, our facilities maintenance division, the maintenance shop, is located on the Yukon Depot campus. It's basically a free lease, but it's a very old an aging building that Yukon could take away from us at any moment. We have no guarantee of a long-term home there. It's meeting our current needs. Free is certainly nice. Don't want to give up free unless you have to, but we could be told at any day, hey, you need to be out in 90 days. And where would we go? What would we do? We kind of need to start to plan, I think, manifest our own destiny and not be relying on Yukon just overlooking us, not really caring that we're there. Because they will, I think, at some point come up with a grand plan for the Depot campus that probably will involve taking down that building. And we will not be probably part of those future plans. So that's kind of, again, a high level discussion. That's some of the things that we're looking at. Again, looking at funding opportunities. I mentioned earlier, public engagement. So what the next phase of this work would look like is taking some of these ideas, these concepts that we've looked at during the first phase of the work, kind of going public with it to get real, genuine public feedback and response to some of these things. So we're not trying to sell anything. We're not saying this is what we're going to do, and we're sort of just doing outreach and communications around that. But these are general directions we may be heading. So what does the community think? What do all the different stakeholders think? And so we're going to be developing an RFP, a request for proposals, to work with a firm that does this sort of thing, that can help us identify the different stakeholder groups, that can help us come up with a kind of a multimodal stakeholder engagement strategy, combination of in-person meetings and digital formats, surveys, try to reach as many groups of people as we can, knowing that some people, if you announce a meeting, they're going to come running to it, and others you have to really work to seek them out and get their opinions on things. So that's kind of where we are. And as I said at the beginning, certainly sustainability and designing spaces or renovating spaces to be more environmentally responsible, energy efficient, harness renewable energy. These are all things that are part of the sort of scope of what we're looking at.
Awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Is it okay if we open it up to some questions from the committee, or did Alan want to chime in before that happens?
I think for the synopsis of the facilities, I think that covered it pretty well. I have some items to talk about in regards to what I've been doing with some of the current buildings and some of those initiatives. So
Okay,
Yeah, why don't we field any questions people have on sort of what we may be looking to do in the future?
yeah. All right, I see Matt's hand. Go ahead, Matt. Matt,
Excuse
why
me,
don't you
sorry.
introduce yourself and your representation on the committee,
Okay.
you know, like you're with the, yeah. So people know in case
Sure.
they don't.
Hold on 1 second. Sorry to yell at the kids, because as soon as I unmute, then the noise level goes through the roof.
I know all
So-
too well what that's like.
Oh, I'm telling you what. Now, give me 1 second here.
So while Matt's walking, he is our representative.
There we go. I got it now. All right, so it sounds like really nice, and it sounds like great improvements for the town. And I just had a question relating to, and you had mentioned there would be grant, or there could potentially be grant monies involved. And also with the sustainability piece, I think if it's built in the right way and with the right, with the environment in mind, hopefully there would be some grant monies with that as well. But it sounds like a lot of expense. And I'm just wondering, where does the, at some point when you're expanding and putting up all these new buildings, I mean, is that, are taxpayers going to see their taxes, you know, go up by 100% or 50% or whatever? Or at what point do you get an economy of scale? Because I know as things grow and expand, that's more tax base. But you don't necessarily need that many more. You don't necessarily need more fire stations, even though you may put up, you know, a couple more apartment buildings, if you know what I mean. But so what is the tax implications to the average citizen look like as we go through this expansion?
Sure. Well, I definitely appreciate the question. You know, anytime we look at any significant capital improvement projects, you know, we're certainly, or for that matter, you know, programs and services we deliver as part of our operating budget, we're always thinking about affordability and making sure that, you know, while I think as Mansfield as a community sets a pretty high bar for service expectations, we're also, you know, very mindful that we don't want to make this a community that we're pricing people out of. You know, we want to have people, you know, all walks of life, all sort of socioeconomic stations, whatever you want to call it, you know, be able to find the housing and if they're looking for and be, you know, certainly an active part of our community. We are projecting, when we look at a number of the larger scale multifamily developments that, you know, are basically at various stages of coming online. Like I know, you know, many or all of you are probably familiar with one of the sort of seminal projects, the Standard at Four Corners, that's moving forward. You know, that's 400-ish units of housing and kind of a mixed use development that's going in there. But there are others. And so even if we were relatively, I guess you could say, conservative about what we would project for some of the new tax revenue streams for these developments once they're built out based on their anticipated value, it doesn't take, I guess, a leap of faith to see how the added tax revenue that those projects and those builds would create, even in the context of some of these, you know, admittedly large, loftier projects that I've described, the sort of debt service we would be looking at for, you know, say a 20-year bond for the combined cost of, say, a municipal complex, public safety, public works, which again, these are absolutely significant investments the community would be making. But even under sort of more conservative assumptions about what sort of grants we might get and how much we would have to self-fund, you know, I can say that these are somewhat back of the envelope calculations, but, you know, our projected increases in tax revenue for some of these larger projects should be considerably higher than any new debt service would be. And so I guess what I'm trying to say with all that is, the average taxpayer, if we hold everything else constant, the level of service that's being provided, the sorts of work that we do as a town, a given person's tax bill wouldn't be going up as a result of these projects because the additional tax revenue from new builds that are coming online would be offsetting it. But that's all very, would be carefully scrutinized, obviously, because, we're always concerned about what the impact is on any project to the taxpayers.
Katie, go ahead.
Hi, I'm Katie Fatoni. I am the representative from Planning and Zoning on this committee. I also live in Rolling Hills. And as you know, that's an over 55 community. And a lot of the residents here really do use the senior center. And I also am good friends with one of the committee, well, two of the ones that are on the Committee for Aging. And their presentation that I have seen, that we really do need a more workable senior center, that where we really do need that. And my only concern is, yeah, I'm always worried if my taxes are going to go up, but because of fixed income. But the other thing is that I want to make sure that whatever you do is built right and will build. And I know sometimes it's a little bit more expensive to try to be more sustainable, but you do get the money back eventually, and you would get the whole picture of, we'd be setting a great example for everybody else in town if we have a town hall and a senior center that is fully sustainable, just like our net zero school that's going in. I would love, to see us have a net zero town hall.
I appreciate that feedback.
Yeah. I'll maybe just build on that a little bit in light of the goal of the town council and the climate resolution to get to net zero in municipal operations by 2030. This is a really cool opportunity. And it's great that it's kind of a really comprehensive look at many uses and needs in our community and how do you integrate them and kind of mix them together in the most efficient way. So a building can be net zero. A whole way of thinking about it, should have that net zero frame. And so that's related to transportation emissions and all those kinds of things. So co-locating is obviously, and locating close to storage center is a great thing. I'm just wondering, we've just had a lot of experience with that with the new school and kind of making a lot of headway with state agencies and grants and things like that. I'm wondering how we can put in place a frame of kind of a net zero look at all the decisions. And it's because it's so easy to just look at the building and emissions are so, it's our behavior related to buildings and locations and transportation systems and how we interact with businesses and so on. So I think it would be really cool to kind of come up with a frame or a lens that looks at kind of multiple ways of deciding this project. And it was actually one of the things this committee did many, many years ago for the consolidation of the schools in looking not just at the building, but at the siting and other issues. So I don't have a framework in mind, but I would love to, maybe explore how this committee could help provide a lens like that or a frame, and how we could really think about the integration of all these things. Net zero's going to be really hard by 2030 for municipal operations, and 2030 is really close. And yeah, it's like, it's a huge opportunity because you got a lot of physical projects on the ground, or imagining.
Well, certainly, when I talked about the stakeholder engagement that looms in the horizon, this committee and other town committees, because it's not that the viewpoints of residents that serve on committees matter more, but you are obviously vested in the community. You care enough to serve on a board or committee, and it's low hanging fruit, right? It's easy for us to identify, captive audiences. So I think we envision taking this kind of on a traveling roadshow, even if it's virtual meetings like this, but using meetings like this as an opportunity to get on the agenda of an existing group and kind of do the run through and solicit feedback. So definitely I can pledge to you that, you'll be definitely further engaged on this as it moves forward.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you. I think a lot of the decision-making just with the school project is kind of engaging the consultants and the teams that are going to be assisting the town in planning, building, and designing and imagining. And as again, I think we've learned with the school, it's really, really important that kind of these types of priorities are stated and stated again and again and again to make sure that those we're paying to work on our behalf to help plan and think about things are really, really doing that, and not just kind of saying, oh, that's not possible, or that's not possible. And we could be the first town to send something super cool with like an integrated development thing.
And one of the good things, about working with TSKP on this is obviously, they've been through this with us for the new school. And so, a lot of the, I think they had done and been involved with net zero or close to net zero projects in the past. But certainly, they went through a very comprehensive project design process with us for the new school. And I think that that's kind of, very much at the forefront of their thinking now. It's almost by default when we start talking about what we might do. When we were talking about before, this preceded me, but I'm sure when they were first brought on, it might have been kind of pushing them in a direction to dream big and really think about this. But now it's almost like it's like muscle memory. They just know, like, oh yeah, it would be like roof solar and this and that, and they're thinking about it. So
Awesome. Does anyone else, Bill or Al or Jeannie, anyone have any other questions or comments? Matt, you got another one? Go ahead.
Sorry, I'm a little annoying with that. The only thing it's more of a suggestion than it is really a question, but so many times I think a lot of these construction projects are done and then they kind of decide what they want to do. And then after the fact, they sort of think about the energy piece and, oh, well, maybe we could put some solar panels on, or maybe we could put this or put that. I would just suggest that, I mean, obviously, if you're in a net zero mind frame, this would be done this way, but if you go in thinking about your energy to begin with, you can design the building around a lot of these things, and it's a lot more efficient, like geothermal heat pumps are even more efficient than the regular air-fired heat pumps. We've been talking about solar panels on buildings. We've been talking about solar canopies in parking lots. And if all of this stuff is done and designed in the beginning, and sometimes it's hard to think about all the different potential things you could do at the start, but if you think about it ahead of time and say, okay, we want to end up with geothermal heat pumps or solar panels and or solar canopies, and with that kind of mindset, you're going into the whole thing, even solar hot water and all sorts of different things that could be done. I think it's easier to do, and the building gets designed with that, and it's a lot cheaper to do than kind of get the building up and then say, okay, now we're going to think about solar canopies in a parking lot and have to try to rip up all that. So that was just a suggestion, is to, get some estimates as you're moving forward, if it's possible, get estimates building that all, integrating that all in from the start as opposed to trying to tack it on at the end. And I don't know as much about the process of, net zero. Maybe that's all part of it. I'm not sure how that works, but I just think that if you're talking that and thinking that right at the beginning, I think it's going to make it easier. And there might be even more grant monies with that. I'm not sure, but I just wanted to make that suggestion. And I thank you for your time and thank you for listening.
I appreciate that, and I would agree wholeheartedly that it's a lot easier to integrate all of those sorts of aspirations if you do it up front than try to retrofit or shoehorn something in at the end. And I think the way I look at it is, when we move forward, with the next sort of phase of the work, even beyond the public engagement piece, we start thinking about more detailed schematic design of, okay, specifically what's going to go on these sites and where. Part of what you do is you start to list out all of the different goals, desired outcomes, you're trying to achieve. And clearly for us, one of the things is it's not just a process goal, if you want to call it that. It's, one of our goals is to actually, achieve net zero or as close to as we can, I think, with all of these projects. And so, if that's a sort of a baseline goal, it's very much woven into every design consideration you make along the way, from the beginning. So you're not trying to find a way to work it in after the fact.
Excellent. So Ryan, thank you so much. I want to be mindful and respectful of your time. And we've got Alan who wanted to share some stuff. So shall we move on to some comments and presentation from Alan? And whether you're staying or not, Ryan, know that this committee is committed to help in any way we can, and feel free to tap into us, and we'll be eagerly chiming in and following this, and please consider us a resource.
So I'm going to hang on. I'm going to deactivate my camera and multitask while I finish making our family dinner meal, but I will be here for a while.
Okay, thanks.
But Lynn, I just want to let you know that the other piece to the agenda is the climate resolution, the
Right.
progress on that. So that's also part of, yeah, okay.
Yeah, so I didn't know, did you have any updates on that? So those were a couple pieces, having all the department heads look at previous climate plan work in Mansfield and what might have been accomplished, and propose new things in town operations to get to net zero.
Yeah, I was going to yield the floor to Alan to do a deeper dive into some of our sort of renewable energy projects and energy efficiency projects connected to the resolution.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, good evening. So that is a big part of what I've been working on over the last little bit. And some of these projects you may have heard about, but I'm just going to give you the latest updates on some of the projects. One of them that we had worked on was putting solar on the landfill. That's going to be a 1 gigawatt system over there. And right now it's with Eversource looking at how they're going to configure the wires to get to it, because we're putting 3-phase there. And the nearest 3-phase power is on the other side of the bridge. They already know about this, but they got to figure out how they're going to go about getting power from the closest point to where the field's going to be. So we're still working towards that, and things are still moving towards that, and with the permit and so on that. Other than that, on the public works buildings, you'll notice there's some solar panels on top of those. That's about a 50 kW system that was done under a Connecticut Green Bank plan and a PPA with a company on that solar system. So that's close. It needs another inspection. It's all hooked up and everything, but it just needs another inspection and approval to get turned on, but that will be coming on soon. Likewise, the middle school, we have 125 kW on that roof that's fully installed, minus its electrical connections into the building. We're waiting on a generator, like you might have heard about the new school is, but we're also waiting on one over there at the middle school. So as soon as we get that, and the forecasts are now that we will hopefully have ours before the end of the year. So we'll be getting that connected and then getting that running hopefully in the next few months also. Beyond that, I'm looking at things like carports because there are some more initiatives coming out with some of that. So we're trying to look at the economics of it, and if it comes into the roughly the zone of pennies from what we already pay, that's where we're looking for sort of the sweet spot on that as far as trying to plan on those. But beyond that, we also, there was some Eversource program to do EV chargers. So we've been looking at doing EV chargers, and we sort of have a round one and a round two, but the round one is planned to include Town Hall, the Community Center, Leonard Hall, Library, Senior Center, Daycare, and the new elementary school, the Mansfield Elementary School. After that, our second round, we're looking at doing the middle school and public works. So we putting in EV chargers pretty much at every major building, and then we'll probably go back and look at how we can get them at some of the parks and things like that. But some of the problems there is the wiring that we have going into them, and we got to consider that and figure how we're going to do that. But we will continue to keep looking at those. Beyond that, probably about half our buildings currently are on LED lighting, but they have newer LED lights, so now we can even get a savings off of the older LED lights. So we're starting around on doing the Town Hall with LED lights, the 3 firehouses, Senior Center, Animal Control, Bus Garage, our maintenance building, and the Town Garage. That Town Garage had a older LED. We're going to replace those with a newer LED. Beyond that, we're also putting outdoor lighting sensors on these lights for the rooms, so that based on outdoor lighting, they will dim down, near, if it's close to the window, it may dim down or shut off, versus a little farther in the building, they may not. But we're looking at that to help save some more energy. We also are replacing some, with Eversource, it's like they want you to take like a somewhat all-encompassing approach to looking at it. So we're looking at some variable frequency drives for motors. There's some out there that are big enough that qualify for that. Some heating motors, some pump motors. We're looking at the pool pump, and we're going to be putting some motor drives on some of those. So that will help us save some electricity. And beyond that, we have some refrigerator controls going in at the middle school on some of the big walk-in boxes that we have that will help us save electricity. And we're also looking at replacing the chiller system here at the Town Hall. So the big air conditioner unit here. So that's somewhat what we have going on right now, but we are continually keeping an eye out there on anything that we can do to help save more energy.
Sounds like you're very busy. It's a great report. It's great to hear about all that.
I have
How
a
do you
question.
balance- Oh, okay.
Did you say that you're replacing LED lights with for those buildings that don't already have LED lights? Is that what you're?
That is correct. Like this Town Hall has fluorescent lights still in it, so we're going over
Okay.
to LED lights.
And then there's one building that does have LED lights, but you're upgrading it.
That is correct. Yeah, that's
Okay.
at the Town Garage.
Okay, thanks. Sorry, Lynn, go ahead.
No, I was just gonna say, so it sounds like a lot of these things in the buildings that might be part of this project Ryan was talking about are quick payback things like lighting, I assume, and whatnot, kind of not knowing the time horizon of how long that building might be used, right? So is that, I guess that's, I don't know, the VFDs and whatnot.
Yeah, most of these 5 years is roughly the period, because we're doing some on Eversource has a program where you can pay for it on the electric bill.
Yep.
So the total of everything we're doing for those energy saving things will, total per year, it may cost us $1,000 or $2,000 more per year for those first 5 years. But at the end of all this, we save the difference in the electric bill. So this happened to us when we did this before. But right now, the projection's out about 100,000 a year that will save in electricity. So part of that money you're using to pay for your project for that couple of years of on-bill paying. But then when you get to the end, you reap the benefit of all the savings.
Awesome.
I have-
Yeah, go ahead, Jeannie.
So where with the energy efficiency efforts and the solar arrays, where does that leave the municipal functions in terms of net zero?
You're actually pretty close to net zero, and we're probably actually going, if you can count the solar field we're doing at the landfill at the 1 gigawatt, that's about what the town uses per year.
Okay.
So you're pretty close right there with that field. So we're actually going beyond that.
Wow. So that's kind of building energy consumption. And then you mentioned the EVs. I know there's a lot of federal money out for electric vehicle chargers and vehicles. I think they're mostly the light duty, but there might be some for replacing some of the like public works equipment and stuff, the lighter type trucks. All right, have you looked into any of that, or have you seen that?
For having them all electric vehicles.
Yeah.
We have a little bit. Right now, it's very hard on the list to even get in an all-electric car for the town. Just for our own department, we were looking at it, and there are none available currently. So,
there's grant money, but it's a production problem.
correct.
Yeah.
I would say too, just to add on that, I think aspirationally we love the idea of expanding municipal or our turning our municipal fleet towards electric vehicles, and that's part of the reason why, as Alan had pointed out, not just for kind of public use and employee use with their own private vehicles, but having more EV chargers for our municipal vehicles. But at the same time, this technology continues to advance, and we need to make sure that from a performance standpoint, we have a vehicle that's going to answer the call of duty and not die from lack of charge at a very inopportune time. And so that can definitely be a source of anxiety when you think about public safety vehicles, public works vehicles, operating in the middle of the night. If you had to have a heavier duty rig, basically, if the range wasn't there, we need to make sure that it can meet the performance demands.
Makes sense. Who else has questions or comments? This is great. I really appreciate both of you taking the time to come and fill us in. And as I said to Ryan, Al, if there's any way this committee can be a resource in that work, yeah, please let us know. Great to hear about all the progress.
We appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you.
All right, so I guess we can move on to our next agenda item. You both are welcome, but thank you so much for coming. I'm sure you have other things to do. All right, so next item is Sustainable CT and the award celebration. So I don't know, Ginny, if you wanted to do that, or you wanted me to mention it, or what?
Why don't you speak to it?
Okay. So Mansfield has earned again silver sustainable CT certification, which is awesome. Our certification was going to be, it's a 3-year thing, so it was going to be expiring at the end of this year, and the town has re-upped very successfully, which is great. And big credit to Ginny and Jennifer Kaufman and many others for kind of gathering the information to help tell the story of the great things that the town's doing and submit the documentation. Speaking from Sustainable CT's side, we're having a big award celebration on Monday at the West Hartford Town Hall between 3 and 6. And that is free. And the certified towns, Mansfield and 23 others, will be receiving awards and recognition at that celebration, as will the first 5 towns that achieved climate leader designation from Sustainable CT. So I believe Tony Moran, the mayor, has registered and will be attending. I know there's kind of a conflict with town council that evening. At any rate, all members of the committee and residents who've been involved in this, as well as town staff and elected officials and leaders, are welcome to attend this. And I will just put in the chat a little link to the page for information about this on November 14th on Monday. And if you scroll down, you can see all the certified towns there and the climate leaders, and scroll down and you can register from the site there. So if folks are interested in going, I know that there's some interest in carpooling from Mansfield. So maybe if committee members are interested in attending, they could let Ginny know, and if there's an opportunity to carpool or something like that, people can kind of coordinate that way. I am certainly going, but going very early to set up, so I'm not a carpool candidate, unfortunately. Any questions on that? And congratulations to Mansfield. It's great.
Yeah,
Fox
I
News
just-
tonight. Oops, go ahead, Ginny.
No, go ahead, Katie.
Fox News tonight had a news story about Sustainable CT. And so you can also go to their website and it will tell you all the towns that have participated and awarded.
Yeah, that was NBC News, right? On the climate leaders? Yeah. Yeah, that was a nice little clip.
Is anybody that is attending this meeting this evening, aside from Lynn, planning on it or interested in attending? No. Okay.
All right. So if there are no further questions about that, next agenda is committee action. So those individual things we all talked about, we were interested in doing. It's an opportunity every meeting if anyone would like to share on, yeah, some of the goals you had for making change in town, in the town's sustainability.
One thing before, because I know it's 6:54, before we close, if we could add to the agenda the 2023 meeting schedule.
Oh, yeah.
Just
Okay.
because if we're going to be meeting in person, it's better than I know now so that I can schedule a conference room.
Okay. Maybe we should handle that one first, because the other item is kind of a standing agenda item about folks sharing what they've been up to. So let's talk about that. I would propose that we continue to schedule monthly meetings of the committee, but as we did this year, easily cancel them if there are conflicts or it looks like, you know, there's not a heavy agenda thing. Ginny and I were talking a little bit before the meeting. It's a lot easier to cancel a meeting than it is to schedule one. And with the kinds of work we've typically done, it's sometimes very opportunistic. So as something comes up with the work Ryan was talking about, you know, we want to kind of have a chance to discuss and weigh in. So I propose we keep with the monthly meetings. We've been meeting on the second Wednesday for a long time. So does anyone have any comments on how about let's just put it on the table of continuing with the same meeting time, monthly, second Wednesday from 6 to 7. Video, and we can do what we did and do some in-person in the nice weather when we get a chance, which was great.
That'd be great, yeah.
Does that sound good to everyone? Ginny, does the timing work for you? Do you have any suggestions about changing or revising?
I would say that's up to the committee members.
Okay.
As far as timing, and I'll show up.
So I'm seeing thumbs up. Al, I know the 6 o'clock time was, that's still reasonable for you, understanding that you have other committee meetings and things like that.
I'm good.
Okay. I like keeping it to an hour and being respectful of people's time, so I think 6 to 7 isn't too bad. All right, then why don't we plan for that, Ginny? You can kind of look at the schedule and see if there are
Yep.
any days that fall on holidays or something weird that we need to shift it from the second Wednesday.
Does it help if I send this out as like a meeting calendar invitation? Does that help scheduling?
Sure, and maybe also just a list.
Yeah,
of
I'll
the
send a
monthly dates.
list and then okay. All right.
Awesome. Okay, great, thanks. I guess we intend, just rounding out the year, our next meeting would be December 14th. And at this moment, why don't we plan to go ahead with that unless there's something that comes up that's not, seems like we don't have a lot to talk about. Make sense?
Okay, yeah.
Okay. All right, so I suggest that we hold the committee action stuff and until December meeting. And let's just ask quickly the future agenda items. Are there any pressing items people would like to see on the December meeting agenda? Or things you know of that are coming up, of decisions in town or something like that? Okay, so Ginny and I will put our heads together and come up with some ideas to keep things moving along. Any last conversation or input before we adjourn?
I just wanted to give a shout out that I'm still putting the stuff out on Facebook. But if anybody would like, oops, hold it the right way. Okay. It shows up backwards, but it's how to give up plastic. And it's an easy read. It's several years old, came out 2018, 2019. It definitely hits us now. And it's amazing how much plastic that we have in our life that we're ingesting when we eat fish or even our own vegetables and stuff. And if anybody wants to borrow this, just let me know and I'll send it over to you. It's a real easy read. And I've marked some stuff in here that I'm eventually going to be putting out on Facebook to talk about it.
That's awesome.
Very great.
Thanks,
very
Katie.
nice.
Katie.
Yeah, thanks, Katie. I may try to get it at the library, but if they don't have a copy, I'll let you know and borrow it.
Please do.
Okay, appreciate it. Anything else? All right, well, we shall adjourn, and I wish you all a happy Thanksgiving and
Thank you.
yeah, enjoy the rest of the month until we meet again in December.
Okay.
Thank you,
Bye.
everybody.
Bye.
Have a good
Bye.
evening.
Thank you.
Thanks a lot.
Bye.
Bye.
Night.
Bye.
Matt, before you leave, can I just
Yeah.
check in with you about
Sure.
EO Smith?
Sure.
Hi, Al. So I talked to Julie real quick this afternoon about your meeting yesterday, Monday, right? Are you meeting
She-
again
Yeah,
next
she
Monday?
wasn't there this past one. Oh, yeah, it was Julia Sherman
Yeah.
and the two students and I. And we were hoping this coming Monday to have a meeting. And Julia and I were hoping Dennis would be there. And I know you wanted to be there to talk with Dennis. And I emailed Dennis and I asked him about it and I've heard nothing.
Okay.
So, and it's already now, tomorrow will be Thursday and I have no breaks in my schedule all day. I'll try to pop in on him on Friday. I'll send him more emails. I just don't know. Because the girls did a study of where the
Yeah,
the trash and recycling bins were. And, in one section of the cafeteria, there's only trash. And the problem that I saw is you need that stuff all right there. You can't
Yep.
expect somebody to walk to one spot for trash and another for recycling.
and
Half
it
the
should
time
be
they're-
paired. It should always
Oh,
be
yeah.
paired. Yeah.
Otherwise, they're just gonna dump it all in one and either ruin all the
Yeah.
recycling or throw away half the recycling. So, but we wanted, his input on that and him to be part of the conversation, but I haven't gotten anything yet. So I'm gonna try to go get a hold of him and do the old pop into his office and
Mhm. Yeah,
then
yeah.
I'll have to, I'll get some kind of response, I would assume, but the girls are great. They
Good.
really are great. They're doing great stuff. And Julia, she's she's
Yeah.
like the Energizer bunny there, so she just keeps
Right.
going. So
Right.
yeah, we kind of need him to be a part of it because he could kind of stop a lot of it. And I mean, I know we were to the point because Julia was suggesting that the kids start looking at bins or whatever. And I said, well, I think we should talk with you because you have the system that's working at the elementary and middle schools.
Mhm.
And I was even saying, if the kids already know how to use that system, sometimes you just want to have the consistency. And I'm hoping that that system works for Dennis and that it could be an easy one and it could work for everybody. We should have Mariah there too, hopefully, but I didn't want to send out an all call for everybody to come in for a meeting because it kind of was hinging on Dennis. Now, Julia wants to just keep meeting every week anyway. I just gotta pester him and get in there and get some kind of response from him.
Do you want me to email him as well, saying
Oh,
I'm
sure
working
thing.
with you and yeah, and we're meeting on Monday and would really like you to come in? I think it would make sense to go to the cafeteria.
Yeah, that wouldn't
Yes.
hurt. That would be
You
nice,
know,
yeah.
Meet in the cafeteria and talk about layout. So, yeah, I can email
Mhm.
him tomorrow.
Okay. And
Yeah.
and like I said, I'll do it. I'll email him also, and then I'll try to do a pop in on Friday. We'll see if we can
Okay.
get any,
But the plan is to meet on Monday at 2:15?
yeah, we're gonna try that again. I mean, I
Okay.
just hope that he comes because we're making some good progress. I want to keep that ball rolling and I don't want it to stagnate. I don't want the girls to get discouraged, you know what I mean? Because
Well, that's
You and
all, it was only your second meeting and they already did something, right?
right, but
Right.
but you want to keep that ball rolling, keep the momentum going.
Yeah,
and,
yeah, yeah.
I don't want it to stagnate and then they kind of, well, nothing's gonna happen and then give up. I don't get that impression they're going to, but we should just keep the ball actually.
Yeah, yeah.
You know what? If I see Julia, I'll mention Dennis won't answer the email. So I know her, she'll be at his office too. So
Yeah.
that could work to our advantage. So between the three of us,
Yeah, okay.
you know, hopefully we'll get Dennis there, and because I think there's really no reason this shouldn't go forward, and I think we could make some big gains in short amount of time.
Mhm.
You know, it's just, again, he's kind of got to go along with the program here, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Yeah, okay. All right, I'll email him, but I just wanted to check in with you and then I'll see you next Monday.
All righty, that
All
sounds
right.
good, Cindy.
Okay,
Thank
take
you very
care.
much.
Yeah,
You too.
have a good evening.
You too. Bye.